Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Tensions between Brussels and Budapest are once again flaring. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban is threatening to block the EU's next 7-year budget unless billions in frozen funds that have been suspended over rule of law concerns are released. Meanwhile, Orban is lashing out at EU support for Ukraine and accusing Brussels of plotting regime change in Hungary ahead of next year's election. And his main challenger, Péter Magyar, is pushing back, vowing to restore ties with the West. Now, to discuss these unfolding details and developments in Hungary, I'm joined by Ilona Gizińska, research fellow at the Center for Eastern Studies. Ilona, so glad to have you with us here on World Talks this morning.
Hello, thank you for the invitation.
So let me ask you this. Now, Viktor Orban says Hungary is going to block the budget, the EU next budget, unless Brussels unfreezes all these funds. Now, let me ask you this. Is this a legitimate bargaining chip? I mean, what's going on here? What is Orban doing again?
Well, actually, it's a very typical tactic from Orban. We know his way of navigating in the EU while he's negotiating things for Hungary. He's quite frequently using this so-called ultimatum. And yes, this time, during his annual speech in Bajletusnad in Transylvania, which he was giving in front of the Fidesz elite and also the local diaspora, he made a big announcement that actually he will not agree on the next multi-annual EU budget unless the frozen money is given back to Hungary. So this is very typical of him to put things that way.
How is the EU planning to respond?
I don't think that it will be easy negotiations between Brussels and Budapest regarding this matter.
What are some of the scenarios that could take place?
Let's remember that we have elections in Hungary in 10 months. So actually this speech was already part of the ongoing campaign. And the budget will be negotiated for the following 2 years, actually. Viktor Orban is completely aware of that. He was even underlying this fact that this matter will need time. And we cannot be sure at this point if he will be the one negotiating. Maybe it will be his rival, Péter Magyar, who has a completely different approach and different idea how to get back this money. So before we jump into conclusions and draw some very specific scenarios regarding how the EU might react, I would rather say it's quite uncertain if Orban will be one who will be deciding about this matter, also domestically.
You know, there was a story that was published in a Polish press that I read earlier this morning saying that Hungary, if not was poor, not only poorer than Romania, but also poorer than Russia. How do you take that? What can you comment on that?
Well, the domestic situation is getting quite difficult regarding economics. So yes, there are many macroeconomic indicators saying that the level of life is decreasing. And this is something that is very problematic for Orban in his pre-election year. Actually, even during his great annual speech, he could not ignore the domestic issues. Usually during those speeches, he is really making the big narrative about how Hungary is involved in the worldwide politics issues. But this time he also had to refer to how he could eventually help the Hungarian economy and the people's life conditions.
Let me ask you this. Viktor Orban also accused Brussels of trying to install a, quote, pro-Ukraine, pro-Brussels government in Hungary, and he said that the EU's current leadership has put the bloc on a track that would lead to a trade war that Europe can't win.
Oh, so this one was actually also quite typical, well-known for his narrative, that he was very attacking Brussels. And this time it was mainly the context of the trade war with the US, where Viktor Orban thinks that the EU is not making effort to negotiate, to have a proper dialogue with Washington. This is actually his approach. He's considering himself a very close partner to Donald Trump, who was strongly supported by Orban during his elections. Well, yes, so there are many aspects of conflict between Budapest and Brussels, and it was quite expected that also this year's annual speech will be devoted for this topic.
You mentioned earlier about Péter Magyar, right? Let me ask you this. How do you think that the Tisza party's position could actually change Hungary's relations with EU if he were to win?
Péter Magyar is definitely a pro-European politician, so there are many areas of his politics where we still don't know how he would exactly act, but one is sure. He will want to have smooth, close relations with the European Union. This is something he also emphasized yesterday during his speech, which took place exactly at the same time when Orban was speaking. Péter Magyar was speaking in Székesfehérvár, the city called the City of Kings, Hungary, so quite symbolic. And he actually has a proper plan how to get back the frozen money. He says he will change Hungary with some reforms to make it able to have it.
What kind of reforms are we looking at?
It will be mainly reforms that will make Hungary more democratic and operating accordingly to the rule of law, which is the main obstacle for the country to have those funds unfrozen right now.
Let me ask you this. What about the obstacles that we can expect from Viktor Orban throughout? You said they're 10 months away from elections, right? I mean, how do you think that scenario is going to unfold?
The ruling party has quite many ways to still remain in power, actually. So there are actually many scenarios. All the system of the election could be changed even more in favor of Fidesz. And also let's remember that the media is quite much dominated by the ruling party, so they have all the ways to make the public opinion in their favor. Also, another important announcement from the great speech on Saturday, Viktor Orban said Fidesz will create some civic circles that will allow free communication for their supporters online. He said now this communication is being supporters have difficulties in communicating freely due to the liberal, the opposition and voters of liberal parties. So actually there are many ways in which Fidesz could still make it very hard for Péter Magyar to win these elections, even though the polls right now say about dominance by 15%, which is quite much.
What about Russia? Is Russia, do you think, going to play out in favor, of course, of Orban, but should we worry about election meddling?
We haven't experienced this in past, but we also know that right now Fidesz
have experienced it.
I see. Yes. So actually, this is everything is on table right now, and Viktor Orban is really desperate. He never had a situation when he had a real rival, and he could possibly lose his power. Let me remind you that he's in power since 2010 constantly.
That's over a decade. That's quite a long time.
So stakes are big, and who knows? Maybe he will ask for support from another country that might be possibly Russia.
Thank you so much, Ilona Gizińska, for all your input here on the unfolding situation in Hungary. Thanks for being with us here in studio.
Thank you so much.
And that's all for this edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.